50 cars eventually come under starters. Always had one or two, as Dave says, didn't make it. We pick up the different makes when racing gets underway in about 10 seconds time. And Dave Richards is the man with me from Historic Racing Commissioners. Away we go. What a sight of historic racing cars across the line. We're on our way for 3 hours of action as they come down through the S's, just sorting themselves out, settling down with the cars. First away are the 28 fastest cars, and then we have another pack with 22 cars in it. Will be following us around the circuit, just to split them up a bit. It looks fantastic. As they come up to the Nashua corner, there's 69, that's Fred Phillips. He's in the Ford Escort, the owner of the Classic Car magazine. Right, we're waiting for the second group. Here they come now. Nice group of 22 cars. These ones get away from the others. Datsuns and Marcus and Darts and Renaults, they're all in there. All cars that raced in the now races.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Roger. And there's, of course, as we've said many times, lots of Alfa Romeos.
Right, on board there with Clive Massell. He shares this car with Mike O'Sullivan. It's a BMW 2002, just settling into this car. This is his first big, long race that he's having. And he's amongst some very potent motor cars in this BMW. Being a good BMW, did well in the sprint race. Second position, that's the Colin Frost car. Then is Bernie Talanis, Carl Penn in the Camaro, Peter Bailey. Then we got Andre Bezuidenhout, a nice stallion there. Peter Lindenberg is the next in 120, a beautiful looking car. Only driven up from Port Elizabeth just 5 days before they started in this race and got a race with it. Second position comes in, decided it's Colin Frost, Bernie Talanis, very evident there. Carl Penn doing well in that Camaro, and here comes Andre Bezuidenhout going in the inside of Peter Bailey. No, he's not. Peter Bailey's got a lovely looking motor car, Dave.
Well, of course, the Bailey car's made in Johannesburg, and the Jimmy Price car like Lindenberg's made in Port Elizabeth. And that GT40, of course, about 95% original.
Yeah. They're fantastic motor cars. I've seen 40 of them lined up at Jimmy Price's place. The quality is unreal. They're all exported out of the country. A few are sold by Lazarus Motor, Colin Lazarus Motors there at Centurion Park. We're on board with Clive Massell down the mine shaft. He's got this pack ahead of him, just lining this motor car, settling down into the race. They've got a long way to go. And I mean, these cars, 3 hours could be quite a long way for them, Dave. I mean, there's 50 start.
There are old motor cars, as we've said many times, up to 50 years old, so it's a long way to go.
Second and third is Frost and Bernie Talanis. There's the Camaro. There's Pienaar, Bailey, Andre Bezuidenhout. Then it's Peter Lindbergh. Here's John Green, the magenta car. That car gets in the walls often. Then it's Nick Parrott. Then we've got Eddie Roux.
Frank Klinkert there in his Cobra.
And that's a very hot Cobra, that one. It's probably the hottest Cobra around.
It's nearly as fast as Tony Martin's car.
Yeah, and he's done well in long-distance race. I remember the Castrol TT did well. Right, so there's Bernie Talanis. That's a Tiga. It is with a rotary motor. You can't miss that sound of that rotor. You can hear it in the middle of Johannesburg, about 25 k's away. It is noisy, and it's a flamethrower as well.
And there's Rui Campos in Craig Shorter's GT40 taking Eddie Roux in the 928 Porsche. Also first time out for that GT40.
And Eddie Roux, of course, got a front engine, that 928, and that hauls it. Eddie Roux's done very well in the car. He was former chairman of the Porsche Racing Association. Right, there's Frank Klinkert. Evert Boerter comes through, and Jonathan du Toit in the Cobra started way at the back of the field. Number 8's not the right number, but who cares about that? And he's got Colin Ellison, who's had a dramatic day and eventually has sorted out his clutch and gearbox problems. And Colin Ellison, who's brilliant on sorting out handling, is right there with him. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of him in this race.
Just mentioning there, Roger, the numbering, it really has been a bit confusing in this race, with some cars carrying at least 3 numbers that we can see.
If you can see any numbers at all. Right, there's one that goes well. That's the Peter de Klerk, Michael Tone. I think that's Michael Tone.
That is Mike driving.
And that's
yes.
a South African built car from the 60s. Bob van Niekerk and Willie Mice and all the others are all into the design and the building of that motor car. Fiberglass, and great performance, and won a 9 out, Dave.
Indeed it did.
Right, here comes the Klinkert car. He's still there with Jonathan du Toit settling into that Cobra. He certainly can drive, can Jonathan. He's the son of Peter du Toit, who owns the Swartkorps Raceway. His brother Mark's in this race as well. We'll see him later in a Dart, and there Colin Ellison. Nice line that Klinkert's got right across the back.
Very good, but you can see already that car smoking. He's had a lot of problems during the year with the diff actually burning itself out. I hope he's not going to have the same problems this time.
Let's hope not. He's a very competent driver, Frank Klinkert. Also was chairman of the Cobra Association not too many years ago. So you can see this whole enthusiasm goes all the way down into racing and keeping the brand name flying. Right, as Jonathan Toy now has got shot of Evert Boerter and Klinkert. As he comes down here, that car is flying down. But as you say, that smoke coming out the back is not a good plan. Jonathan Dutoy, here he comes here now, settling into this race and just picking up places. Everett Borter comes next. He's going to relay team there with Ronald Kerb and also Fred Koenig, all in Porsches, very hot Porsches indeed. That car of Frank Lincoln's definitely getting worse. He's sharing that car with his son Mark. Right, here comes Fred Phillips in the little escort behind him. We've got
Dave Ray in the MGB GT being passed by Tom Smith.
Not
in
quite yet.
Edwin Green's car.
Yeah.
Dave Ray's first race in this car.
And Dave can pedal. I remember him pedaling along in polos and production cars. Dave Ray can really go. As that's the Barry Scott car comes down the road. There's Dave Ray in the MG. Nice to see the number of MGs up. And pretty reliable too, eh, Dave?
Well, they are generally, yes.
Right, Massell gets onto the brakes there, takes it easy, comes through this corner, a wee bit wide. There actually must be letting somebody through on the left-hand side. He's looking in his mirrors, and there he comes. Look at the acceleration. That's the difference of a sports GT car, really flying it, Dave.
And that, of course, George Verscheer with Ross Lazarus, they started from the pit lane after the entire field had left.
And that's a real star. One of the greatest drivers South Africa ever sent to Lamar is George Verscheer. Nice to see him back in race. There's Fred Phillips behind the little red dot of Mike Altona, and the Marcus Howard now is getting on the inside there of Dave Ray. That's a bit cheeky, eh?
Well, that's Stuart Grant. Certainly a good battle midfield with the two Bs, the Marcos and the Dart.
Yeah.
And Fred Phillips in his BDA escort.
Yeah, and he's the man who owns that Classic Car Africa magazine to go
fantastic.
from the There's an enthusiast for you. He's come all the way from Cape Town. What a nice guy. And he's got a whole selection of cars too. Right, it's Cabrita now. On the inside comes Carl Estes. We said it many times. Dad used to run the Alpha plant at KYALAMI. Real Alpha fans, these cars. And that little classic Alpha, that GT Alpha, looks so good there, that yellow one. And he drives it well as well too. And the Corsairs in there and lasting.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Here comes the 956. Cutting through the traffic, losing obviously seconds per lap, but hopefully they're not complaining too much about the traffic as they did in the sprint race.
For second and third, we've got Bernie Tolanas has now gone into second ahead of Colin Frost and the lovely looking 917. Those are the cars that actually won at Le Mans for the first time for Porsche. We had the Ford era, we had Ferrari era, and then the Porsches took over at Le Mans, and that's what they did it with.
And that one, of course, a replica of the Dave Charlton car of the early 70s.
And its original colours too, it's wonderful. And those long wings at the back with a long tail, of course, was to keep the back wheels on the deck, because it used to get very hairy in that motor car. Still in the top 10, Eddie Roux, Jonathan Dutoy, as we say, scything through the field. He's certainly on a march. Is that beautiful looking Daytona GT.
And there's Porter again and the very smoky Frank Klinkert Cobra.
No, I don't think he's got far to go in this race, Dave. You can't last for 3
There's the black
hours.
flag, Roger.
Ah, well, they've taken cognizance so that you can't go dropping oil on the road. Right, we're on board with Carl Pin on this big Camaro now. There's big Chev horsepower, big General Motors
a
power.
big noise, a big noise.
And that car there was an ex-West Bank V8 car that used to push out about 650, 700 horsepower. It marches along. Big time. Here it comes now, coming up in the Warrenburg Escort. Behind him we got...
Peter Collins in his Mini and Andre Bezuidenhout out in the Luendo Porsche.
We don't see enough of Andre Bezuidenhout actually, because he's a fine driver's on. You get a car gets prepared, that's what Corp's got a workshop. That's what Corp's, and it's potent, eh? Jeez, I
That's a very quick Porsche.
Right, Carl Pinar is just, it almost seems to be idling, but as he puts his foot, the grunt of that engine just comes up with his others. And we'll just see how quickly he can pass these cars that are ahead of him.
Just watching there, look at the weather, Roger. The black clouds are rolling in.
The black clouds are rolling in, that's for sure. We might have rain shortly as we go past Warren in his little Fiat Uno. Here they come Cabrita. There's Fred Phillips on the left-hand side. No, that's not. That's Lotus Cortina, Gordon Law.
Gordon Law and Rob McCarty.
Yeah, McCarty. Fantastic. It's nice to see that car out here on board with Carl again.
And he's coming up to lap Sean Oliver in the Porsche 9146. That's his sharing with Steve Pickering. But again, look at the black clouds, Roger.
There's a storm over Northcliffe in the centre of Joburg, and it's coming KYALAMI. There's Klink again, the pits. I think that's his race run. His son, Mark, might take it out for another couple of laps, but who knows. It's a pity because Frank certainly is in the picture. Bernie Tolanas into the traffic now. In fact, it's up with Clive Massell. That's his car. Nicely turned out BM. And listen to that Mazda. Fantastic rev. Sounds like a two-stroke motorbike. On board with him, to hear that sound all the time, it really deafens you if you're behind that motor car. Look at the acceleration up the hill there.
They have to wear big earplugs, and interesting that Massell certainly isn't revving the BM like Mike O'Sullivan was in the sprint races at this moment.
Mainly because he owns the motor car. Gordon Moore comes past, and there's Warren now in the Fiat Uno. We've got the Corsair of Graham Reed, and then I think it's Cabrita.
It's Manny Cabrita, Sean's father.
Yeah, he's having it. And those are timeless Julias in those cars. Right, Bezuidenhout getting through the traffic. We've got, looks like Rod Alsdale, is it? No, Joe Soares. And here comes the John Reeve car, less one headlight. That car really does get in the walls, coming up there on Stuart Oliver and Pickering. The little green 914. Not too many of those around, but we've got 2 in this race.
That's good, yeah. The other one from Tim Abbott, the bright orange one.
Right, that is Joe Soares. Now, that little piece of ribbon at the back is not a piece of beading hanging. It's to say that he's a starter. That's his first drive he's had. Right, Rui Campbell's in the pit. Looks like trouble, Dave.
It does. There's definitely some problems here.
And they were lying well up in the top 6 as Roy gets out. He's got that purple helmet, easy to identify. So, Rui, what happened?
We were doing so well there, recovering, and a side shaft just snapped.
Where did it happen?
I was going through the S's and I got no drive. I managed to freewheel from the S's all the way to the pit. Amazing, because it's got a diff, the car's got a diff, so it broke the outer CV joint.
That's very disappointing.
Yeah, I know, especially for my teammates, Alan and Craig, they're not going to ride now.
And right here we've got Tom Smith coming through in the B, chased by Scott Rayner in his Mini, another car that was just built for this race. Scott's been at it for about a year building this car.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, Dave. They build cars just for a meeting like this, or the one that comes at the end of January at Swartkorps. Right, it's Bernie Chalanas getting through the traffic. There's the man in second position. He's got away from the third car, the Colin Frost car, and he's on a roll, really on a roll is Bernie. And that car sounds so good. It's healthy and well as he comes up on the markers there of Stuart Grant. And here comes the leader now. It's Ruan Pretorius. They're just getting through the traffic. Dave, the trouble is it's not going to get any less because we've had just one car is actually retired and we well up to 40 minutes in the race really.
It does look like a very busy day on the M1 and a lot of weaving to get through with the faster cars, but it looks like the slower guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, and Colin Ellison's in that little blue Alpha's over his problems this morning. He's got everything sorted. It never seems to worry him. He just says, I'll get the gearbox changed or the clutch fixed. And here he is back, and he can make cars handle, as we said a bit earlier. Veron Pappas and Chris Costas in the Porsche engined Teague as he goes up the hill. Looks like a little Porsche too, eh?
It's quite a famous car, that one as well.
And how's Frank Copping in the Renault, holding off an MG?
That's it. That's Dave Ray and Frank Copping in a very famous Dauphine that he's raced throughout many years now.
It must be the hottest Dauphine ever made. That car is incredible. It's also got his back wheels there. Incredible camber angles. Yeah, right, Carl Pinot coming up on the 2 of them. There's a little Renault ahead of him, and he knows KYALAMI so well, does Frank Copping.
Now we'll see the power, Roger.
Well, that's the way to go, Ray. You just put foot and you just pass him. What it must be like in the Ruan Pretorius car with all that traffic. Here's Bezuidenhout now. Andre Bezuidenhout coming up on the Peachy car.
And then the Tim Abbott 914, that's the orange one. That's the other 9146 in the race.
And of course that was a Volkswagen basically, wasn't it?
Originally it was a 4-cylinder engine, Volkswagen, but the 6 is a Porsche 2-litre engine from the 911.
Right, he's coming up, and Fred Phillips is Andre Bezuidenhout, all these well-known names in historic racing. 66 is Vic Peachy. Here's a Dauphine. He's still holding up Dave Rowe. I can tell you from experience, Dave Rowe can pedal around a circuit. He is so fast, and that Dauphine staying ahead of him. And lovely to see these MGs as reliable as they are.
Well, of course, this is the first race Dave's had for a very long time. He had a motorcycle accident last year, and now he's back on his feet, and he's doing very well.
And he's such an enthusiastic guy about motorsport. Right, here he comes now, Andre Bezuidenhout on the inside. He's bringing John Grieve with him. Those 2 Porsches are so hot. And Andre Bezuidenhout, we must see him more in Porsche GT racing next year for sure, because he is one of the top competitors. Right, there's a pretty little Capri.
That's Kevin Taylor in old Mike Summerscale's car, which won the Mark cars some years ago. First time out in the car in the 9-hour.
And what a fright he's getting when that big Porsche comes past him and
Absolutely.
Just goes away. Gee, what a way to go racing. Those Porsches, look how far he's got ahead already. He's about 100 meters, 120 meters ahead and hauling. I must say down at Killarney did 1:09. If you know times around Killarney and Cape Town, that is super fast. I think the fastest car ever around that circuit. Right, we're on board once again with Cloud Massel doing actually very well in that car, conserving it. Mike O'Sullivan will be taken over later. And the clouds seem to have gone a wee bit behind them. If you look in the mirrors, there's dark clouds coming from Johannesburg.
I think it's when we're facing the other way, Roger, when we get round Nashua, then you'll see what the weather's going to do. There's Scott Rayner in his Mini, number 22. Interesting, driving with his mother Delia in this race.
Can you believe it? The whole family's into the racing. It's great to see. And in a 3-hour race, you've got a lot of driving to do. We forecast about 90 laps in this race, eh, Dave?
I think so, yeah. It depends, of course, with the 956, whether they can get through the traffic or if there's rain may make a big difference.
Yeah, and Jonathan du Toit arrives. He's giving that Daytona GT a workover, coming through the traffic as well, coming up on the Capri. There he goes. To have big power like that, he just takes him in 1, 2, 3, and he's past him. Clive Massel's the third one in this picture in the BMW, all sounding very nice and healthy.
And that's Gino Lassio in the Alpha GT Junior in the relay team with Tehran and Paul Boer.
And we always say lots of alphas, and there are a lot of alphas, right? Bernie Talana's second position sounding good. I think he's actually starting to get closer to the leaders. He's got the hang of this car. He comes out sort of once a year, does Bernie, and does well. Right, looks like Frank has come out for another run, but nothing's been cured there. I think he's got terminal trouble there.
I think that's the end. And that's the Finney and Featherstone R10, chased
good,
by Graham Reed.
There you go. Oh no, Clinkett's car definitely is putting up a smoke screen.
I think the black flag is coming again on that one.
Pretty for him, because he puts a lot into it. Here comes Bernie now too. Bernie Talanas to catch up to these others, and of course these leading cars get through the traffic so quickly. And we've got the little the Gordon Law McCarty car, and then we've got, I think it's Clinkett, might be son Mark. No, it looks like Frank. He's a big fella.
I think that's Frank, yeah. But it's terminal, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and they've got to watch that it's not actually oil going down the circuit. Oil is one thing, you can always soak it up with cement. The worst is if you allow antifreeze, that you can't see, and you need chemicals to get off the circuit. And that's been a very successful Cobra. Feared in many races in the past. I'm sure he'll have it out at the end of January at Swartkorps at the big historic meeting there. Right, the third man comes down the road. That's Colin Frost still at the wheel. And behind them is the Altona car, the Mike Altona car. The little dot still chiming along. We're coming up there in John Burden's XK Jaguar, the 140.
That's a car, of course, he brought from America in 2 halves and rebuilt it from an absolute wreck into the beauty that it is today.
It's an absolute beauty and a classic-looking car from Jag. Oh, dear.
Edward is not looking too cheerful there.
Opens the bonnet, just gets the bonnet catch, and off it comes.
Very happy to see our cameraman.
And look at that. I mean, there's such a standard-looking motor in that car. Oh, here's more trouble too. Honourable Zaynat. Hello. Big trouble. There's another bonnet come off. Still got it running. They're having a look to see what's happening. It almost looks terminal. They start getting under the bonnet like this. Here they're looking at some sort of fuel supply, something in the back of the Clive Massel. BM Michael Sullivan's in there in the white and yellow overall. Seems to be okay. The marshals are checking, or the scrutineers are checking it's okay, and I think they'll be on their way shortly. Close the boot and let's get back onto the track. Okay, says Clive, you can go. So Clive says, can I go now? Switches it on. And he's set to go. He's still talking about it. They're going to have another try. Anyway, it's gone very well, that motor car. And Clive Massel from Boxburg is on his way. He says, you get going now. Sounds good, right? This is terminal.
This is not looking good. There's a lot of smoke and a lot of oil.
What's the problem?
Bad news. I think we've picked up a problem with the oil. It started throwing out oil on the 10th lap. So I think there's something seriously wrong.
Engine oil or hydraulic oil?
Engine oil. No,
you were flying, eh?
No, it was going fantastic. I mean, we had a fantastic dice, but there's a problem with the oil. I think we're out.
Well, we hope to see more of Andre and GT racing next year. Clinkett's out of it, definitely. He's had a try, and the car's definitely not performing. Well, we hope to see him too at the end of January, because that's a very potent Cobra. Right, more problems. I know, this is refueling the old way, Dave.
Yeah, there's none of this high pressure, just blow.
And
try
get a
not
mouthful
to
of
swallow.
petrol. Don't smoke after it. Right, Jonathan du Toit comes in. I think this is just a scheduled stop. He comes in.
This is a relay team change, but the whole thing was done with a transponder, so you take it from one car to the next.
And Ben van der Westhuizen tapes it on there, and the mechanics, and it's Mark du Toit. So it's Jonathan du Toit, Mark du Toit, and Peter du Toit is all in the race. It's a whole family scene and doing very well. That Dart is lying about 8th at the moment overall, and well driven and very well prepared.
A little bit of confusion there, but off they go. And here's Michael Toner in his Dart for a scheduled stop.
No, I think he's got problems, David. Look, there's a panel. That's what keeps the axle from going sideways, actually. It's attached to the body.
It's really sad, you know. He won the Sports and GT Championship this year. Never had a problem, and now in the 9-hour, bang.
Right, now we'll see a professional stop. Already the refueling looks more professional, keeps the motor going. Didn't think he could do that. But here they're getting ready to go now. That Ruan Pretorius got it. That's Daddy there in the white and red helmet. That's France Pretorius.
And here's the Pinar Camaro for a changeover of drivers.
And Ben Morgan, who's going to get in, take it over from Carl Pinar. Right away they go. It's the schedule. Now France Pretorius is at the wheel. So, Ruan, you're doing a good job there. 45 minutes, is that what you planned?
Yes, now we're running according to the plan, but yeah, the traffic is very bad out there. I thought it's going to be bad, but not this bad. I mean,
You're talking 55 cars, eh?
yeah, no, I mean, there was, and all of the cars, I think they only retired about 2 or 3 cars already, so there's still all of them are out there, and some corners you'll just approach like 6 or 7 cars, so it's crazy out there, real difficult.
Now, Ruan, with the fuel stops, you're going to stop every 45 minutes, so basically you need 3 stops.
Yeah, we're going to have 3 stops.
And it takes quite a long time to change drivers, eh?
Yeah, well, we thought it was going to take us about 4 minutes, but this last stop, I think, took more than 5 minutes per stop. And they didn't even change the tires yet. So the next stop, they even need to change tires on top of it. So, yeah, we're taking a while now with it. But
So it's a good start.
yeah, we have a bit of a lead, but now, obviously, with the pit stops, we're losing a lot. With the other guys with a relay, they can just run to the next car, which is already 100% ready.
Fine drivers, Ruan. There's Ronel Gerber coming in for their stop. And the GT40, there's George Fassis, brought that car right up to 11th from the back of the grid. He's passed something like 48 cars in the Lazarus car, and Ross Lazarus about to get in. There's something different, Dave, different numbers on the bonnet, on the door, 76 on the bonnet, 102 on the doors, and it's Clive Warren, Little Uno. And going very well, I got to say.
Well, it's just designed to confuse us, I think, Roger. But interesting, as you say, the refueling methods from NASCAR cans to the really clever stuff with the Porsche, and the old 20-litre job into the fuel tank.
It can get dangerous too, though, with all that fuel around the pits. Right, here's Carl Esterhazen coming. That doesn't look scheduled. Nobody's rushing over to see. I know there it is, the old-fashioned way. Took the mat out of his road car and he just puts it there so it doesn't spill on his bonnet.
And the John Grieve car here looks like a change of driver now to
Sean.
That's Sean Grieve. John Grieve getting out. I think Sean Grieve getting in.
Built very similar, and the overall's very similar as well. There's the Gordon Law Ford Cortina. Not too many of those. I think, what, 7 in the country a day?
Well, and yeah, this one is actually from Zimbabwe and is a real one.
Yeah.
And there's the Barry Scott car, just having a wash and a polish and a quick service.
Because he's got, just what you say, wash and polish. His car always looks immaculate. Peter Lindenberg still to make a driver change and refuel the motor cars. They come through there. Colin Ellison just goes on the inside of Massel. That car's going well. Whatever's wrong with it in the boot, it's certainly going well. Must say that BM, and likely to last the 3 hours as Ellison gets going along the old pit straight. This is where it used to start before. In the middle, coming up towards us is...
That's Peter Bailey in his in the number 6 car.
He arrives quickly.
GT40 passing Stuart Gregg, and on the inside of Colin Ellison, chased very hard by Peter Lindenberg.
And if you look in the roof of the door, of the driver's door, they used to call those the GT42s. You see the little bubble there because it's 2 inches higher. GT40, 40 means 40 inches above the road, the top of the car. And they put this bubble so that man could get his helmet in there.
That's right, and Peter Bailey got a bit wedged behind Colin Ellison there, and let Lindenberg just take that gap through.
Look at the sight of that. 2 GT40s, one made in PE, one made in Johannesburg. That's the number 6 car by Peter Bailey, and they both get exported around the world. A lot of them are gone. Here's an interesting car, the Mazda 323. Is Don Brains. He raced that car for many years.
And it actually raced in the Niner, in that
sure
guise.
Did. He did. He certainly did. Ronel Gerber, 98, in a relay team. And then the Wannenberg car comes up the road. That little Escort with the white bonnet and white boot, and here comes Don Brain. They fly down here. You see those buildings in the distance are about 10 k's away from the circuit. The data buildings are a long way away. So that camera certainly foreshortens these cars coming down. Right, into the traffic is France. I think a little bit more cautious than his son Ruan as he gets through the traffic. And what a motor. It just idles through it, Dave. I mean,
Well,
so much.
It's just too beautiful on the road. And, of course, a past winner of the 9 hour in 82 and 83.
And he won the 3-hour race last year as well. But he's still getting through the traffic pretty quickly as we go on board. Now it's Ben Morgan at the wheel of the Carl Pinot car as he comes through now at the top of West Bank Corner, heads down that big hill. It's the John McLaughlin little Datsun. There's a car that's a giant killer, Dave.
That's another rocket.
A rocket.
Let's look at the speed of Morgan down the hill. Is he going to lift?
You can't hear. But he does go. Gee, he does fly down that hill in that big motor car.
But of course, the traffic thing's quite interesting. In years gone by, they had exactly the same. Oh my word, there's a problem.
On a bit agricultural there, he'll get back on the circuit. The McLaughlin car comes past, and 106, is it 106, 108, 107?
Run to run.
Doesn't have to be the same numbers on the program, of course. Right, here's the Pinot's H&R Pinot Little Datsun, another one. It's a family that is sharing this motor car. Another Datsun has done well as Peter Bailey comes to. Oh, hello, Ben Morgan is going back to the pits. Problems there, unfortunately. Maybe Henny Groenewald doesn't get a drive in the car. And Keith van Heerden's D-type.
Looks like it's getting heavier. The marshals are getting slower, and a bit of wheel spin there.
He must have spun that car. So it was facing the wrong way, coming out of Clubhouse, out of Goodyear Corner. Looks like the rain is starting, Dave.
Yeah, there's the wiper going on Don Brain's car.
And they're starting to go careful. This starts to even out the traffic and the talent, the driving talent as well. Ferdy Vernieke's Porsche this time. He's putting Rain-X on the windscreen as the Papas Costa car goes out, nice looking, and is doing very well up there in the top 6. Oh, we got a fire here.
Yeah, there was a problem there, Roger. The stub axle broke and all the grease and oil unfortunately caught fire with the heat from the brakes, and the car's unfortunately out of the race.
And they've just done 1 hour. Anyway, the positions after 1 hour, we've got still 2 hours to go. There's a lot of cars still running, only about 3 cars out. Porsche engine cars dominate. You see the surprise leaders, Tolan and Sanok, because France Pretorius Haroon had a long pit stop. And in 7th, a brilliant drive there in the dart by Mark du Toit and Ben van der Westhuizen.
Supersports presenters are perfected by Tenaz. Hair, body and nails.
So last year this time I took my chick out for a fancy meal, got us a bottle of not so vintage red and paid a polite tip, which cost me about 350 rand. Then she wanted to go see a movie, which meant popcorn plus the parking, about another 150 bucks. But this year I'm staying home and getting a month's worth of world-class sports viewing for the price of one night out. Got it on your World of Champions.
The Volvo Ocean Race, only on your World of Champions. Proudly sponsored by Heineken.
Back at KYALAMI for the 2nd hour rain. Clouds are gathering there, Dave. The tyres have changed, the fuel's been put in, and racing continues.
But in fact, the rain is falling. If you look across there towards Santon City, that really looks bad news for these guys.
And we also see now who's got their wipers working. Very often they don't service their wiper motors or the blades, and suddenly the rain comes down. There's one that has been serviced.
That's Ruan Turon and his Alfetta GT, but a lot of the guys use Rain-X, and it literally forms the water into droplets, blows off the screen, and they can see very well. But you can see Tim Abbott slithering there a bit as the surface begins to grease up a bit. So looks like it's going to become very interesting.
And there's a car we're getting a first sight of, that the old TRC Toyota there of Wenzel Norman. It's up the hill to go. Esterhazen's back in business, and the little Fiat Uno is holding its own with anybody. Eddie Roux comes down the road. He's got his wiper going behind. There's an interesting one, that Mercedes-Benz Robertson McBeath. That car was bought for 10,000 rand. We have said it before. They put about 10 G's into it, and they go racing. Oh,
and now look at the rain.
I wouldn't say that's rain. That's a cloud burst at KYALAMI. And it can rain here, eh, Dave? But at the pits it could still be dry.
Yeah, you can hear the noise on the cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the Fushi Lazarus car facing the wrong way. Not a good spot to be.
You can face, you're getting a good view of the circuit. Right, the rain tires are waiting. Those are the treaded ones which get rid of the water. There's a slick alongside. Nobody. I wouldn't be pumping any slick tires. I'd put them away because you're not going to need them right now. As in comes France Pretorius for his rain tires. By the way, when they put a set of these tires on, it's another 20 G's that you're putting onto your motor car. Change the tires, 20 G goes on, and off he goes.
Of course, this car works entirely on an air jack system. You'll see them put the pipe in. The car will just raise itself up, and off come the wheels.
Now watch the air jack come into operation. Here he goes. Pop, and up it comes. That's the way to do that. Oh, and they're starting to serve as wiper blades.
But of course, even on a very expensive car, you can still have cheap wiper blades.
Right, Chanel Gerber comes in. She reckons she needs stars. The biggest thing here, if you're at the top of the circuit and it's raining, is to get back to the pits and not spin if you're
without landing in the bushes, indeed.
Absolutely.
But of course, a lot of these cars are running the so-called rally slicks, which are very good in the wet or the dry.
Yeah, they get incredible grip, those treaded tires, on wet roads, in fact. Well, some casualties are starting to happen now. Here's one in the pits now. It's the dot car of Barry Scott, and might have polished it, boy. Boy, he's gone into something then, and they'll have that fixed and back on the circuit shortly, I'm sure.
And also, I think it's a scheduled time.